A fan is allowed to...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. For presentation, I am Immaculate. First, our major stories. At least 30 shops have been reduced to ashes at the Douala Central Market. The governor of the Lithura region, Samuel Douala, while on the site, says that preliminary inquiries indicate that the fire emanated from a fan that caught flames due to overheating. And also we'll take you to some other news where Minat boss Paula Tanganji threatens to sanction opposition politicians, Professor Maurice Campton, the president of the CRM party, and Honorable Cabral Limbe over what he qualifies as derogatory remarks on the head of state. He warns politicians against inciting violence. We have greater details of the entire communique signed by the minister in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe television. You made the right choice. So begin with this human interest story. The governor of the Lithura region, Samuel Douala, says over 30 shops have been razed by flames on Thursday night at the Douala Central Market, while authorities say a heated fan is at the origin of the fire incident. Traders blame rampant power cuts and haphazard connection of electric cables. Innocent Aza was at the incident site today and came back with this report.
A fan is alleged to be at the origin of the fire that consumed the contents of over 30 shops at the Douala Central Market Thursday night.
Could have been the cause of this fire incident, and maybe it has been forgotten by the owner who didn't remove it from the socket. And this happened at around midnight, and we are very sorry for that incident.
To some traders, 4 electrical connections and rampant cuts of electric energy in the market are at the origin of the inferno.
On coupe l'allumette comme le quinotan, pim-pom, tout le temps. C'est comme ça, dans le marché, un grand marché, un marché central.
Though firefighters are still determining the actual cause, victims are in a state of confusion, wondering how to start from crash and take care of their families. Governor Samuel Douala and his entourage, while on the scene of the incident, visited the razed shops. He noticed that illegally constructed shops by some traders posed as obstacles for firefighters to move in unperturbed to contain the flames.
I'm also asking the people that are making shops around Central Market to remove them, because the fire brigades had many difficulties to access the place where the incident was settled. So let us join together the effort to make this situation not to be happen again. And also, when you are seeing how the installations have been done, it is just a sorrow.
Before his departure, the governor assured victims will be compensated by authorities in Yaoundé, who await a factual report.
After the research, we are going to make a report to make sure that those who are injured have to be helped by the government.
This is not the first time such a fire generates in the Douala Central Market, causing enormous destruction with losses incurred.
And now we take you to the southwest region of the country, where 2 students of government bilingual high school Limbe drowned at the beach. Municipal authorities, notably the city mayor, urge parents to prohibit their children from going to the beach at this time when the waves are very violent. Davidson Maimo explains further.
In sorrow, this eyewitness says he wished he could swim to keep the 2 children from drowning, as he watched helplessly but could not do anything.
That means it's a wonderful thing because I never see the kind of thing happen before. So the thing is bad for me, so I'm not be happy with it happen, and then no man will even intervene after all things, so it really be icky.
The principal of Government Bilingual High School Limbe who rushed to the scene, says the story is too good to be true.
It's a very unfortunate situation, very unfortunate. I couldn't just continue the staff meeting. I left it in the hands of my vice principal to continue running the meeting while I come to see what has actually happened. From what I've heard from the people around, the children are in the sea, the corpses are in the sea. And that the other ones I've met with the police here who said the other students who accompanied them are under custody.
The mayor of Limbe 2 municipality, Chief Ndiveuka Daniel, who among other local authorities were at the scene, says it is a sad situation.
Very, very sad to know that we have lost two students as we are hearing.
The mayor, who doubled as a traditional ruler of Bubende village in Limbe 2 subdivision, said swimming at the sea at this particular period of the year is dangerous.
We understand that we have so many IDPs and so many tourists who would like to enjoy the beaches around. Unfortunately, the sea is very rough and very violent. There's a natural habit of the sea. There are sometimes the sea is friendly, and sometimes the sea is not friendly. We think that in as much as people would like to enjoy the beaches, they should hold for a period of time until a month or so.
The lifeless body of the two children carried by the high current of the sea, which name we are still to have, are yet to be seen.
We stay in the southwest region, but this time around in the Kondo Titi, where inhabitants of this area, especially those living around the beach, were very restless after battling the entire night to contain a fire outbreak which erupted at the Kondo Titi beach Thursday afternoon. The mayor, Ota Margaret Dimba, and a divisional officer while at the scene revealed that the fire wasn't caused by separatist fighters. Malaglari completes that story for the 6 p.m. news.
It was on Thursday afternoon that the fire erupted at the Kondo Titi beach, burning several houses, shops and a vehicle. The beach quarterhead says the fire came as a surprise to laborers working at the beach to transport fuel.
As workers, then they walk, they put petrol inside the motor.
He explains that the fire was caused by a wrong manipulation of petrol. The workers packed containers of petrol in the vehicle alongside other items, which attracted fire from a cooking site. The heavy mobilization of residents were able to contain the raging inferno.
Thank God said the fire not be continued just because of the time where the thing they happen, it began at dry water.
The Quarter Beach Nebongo Daniel also adds that it was possible to extinguish the fire due to the fact that the sea was calm. To witness and to evaluate the situation on ground, the mayor and the senior divisional officer for Kondo Titi visited the site.
If all of us can put our hands on deck and see that we make permanent offices, permanent structures, and I think every service should have an extinguisher, and they will try to look at where these petrols could be kept, not choked with everything around.
While waiting, I'm going to call for a meeting involving all the services to see if in their different ministerial ministry, if they can do something. If they don't do, we'll see with the mayor how we can put things in order so that the place should keep on functioning.
No human life was lost, but enormous material damages recorded in the fire incident that took place at the Kondo Titi beach in Dian division in the southwest region.
And now to one of our major lead stories. Opposition politicians rained down stiff criticisms on the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji, over his recent press release in which he issued warnings to political leaders who he says do not respect President Paul Biya and state institutions. Some say the minister's statement suggesting that the clause, "Dear Cameroonians, my fellow compatriots," is reserved for the head of state alone, is a show of ignorance of the minister. Babla Jonathan reports.
Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration warns opposition politicians against what he qualifies as derogatory statements that dishonor the head of state, Paul Biya, and the institutions he incarnates. In a press release, May 23rd, Minister Tanganji Paul tells the political leaders to respect state institutions and the President of the Republic. And this, according to the member of government, begins with stopping the use of the clause.
Fellow Cameroonians, my dear compatriots.
Minister Tanganji Paul says political party leaders should not use the clause because they are talking to their militants.
Chers Camerounais, chers Camerounaises.
His release states that only the President of the Republic should use the clause because he speaks to all Cameroonians. In reaction, on a Facebook handle, Honorable Nuran Foster of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation decries what she describes as intimidation of opposition politicians by the Minister of Territorial Administration and threatens to resign from politics. To the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM National President Special Advisor Sylvanus Mutaga, it is unacceptable.
It is also a display of ignorance of the Minister of Territorial Administration.
Sylvanus Mutaga reminds the Minister of Territorial Administration that he ought to be protecting the rights of politicians and all Cameroonians enshrined in national and international legal instruments like the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
And now we talk something else. Piracy, armed robbery at sea, kidnapping of seafarers, illegal fishing, trafficking, and transnational organized crime continue to pose a major threat to maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea despite multiple security efforts employed by member countries. Considering that these challenges ultimately affect the economic development of the entire region, member countries are synergizing their skills to face a common enemy. This is one of the foundational reasons of the Obangame 2024 Maritime Security Exercise that just ended in Douala. Femi Armstrong Sanda completes the story.
Despite recent achievements, the International Maritime Bureau has grown increasingly concerned over a resurgence of maritime security incidents in 2023. To change the tide in 2024, Gulf of Guinea member countries are multiplying security strategies. In this regard, the Douala Naval Base hosted the launching and the closing ceremonies at the national level of the third edition of the multinational maritime exercise, the Obangame Express 2024. On behalf of the Minister of Defense in Cameroon, the ceremony was chaired by Air Brigadier General Iba Noah, commander of the 2nd Joint Military Region.
During these few days of intense activity, we were able to appreciate the complexity of maritime incidents and the need to have well-trained personnel. Maritime piracy, human trafficking, arms trafficking, illegal fishing, pollution, hostage-taking are in fact acts which harm our sub-regions because they delay the development of our states and can, to some extent, compromise their stability. The perpetrators of these acts have no borders, so we must all come together by pooling our efforts, by setting up reliable mechanisms for exchanging information, by acting with procedures, by making our staff much more professional, and by strengthening cooperation.
Captain Young Ntari Shah, commander of the Surface Forces and national director of the Obangame Express 2024, recalled the objectives.
With the primary objective of exercising regional maritime agreements and interoperability of the African partners. Also participating were European, Atlantic, and U.S. militaries and other African agencies. This interoperability included a broad range of naval tasks to include energy security, counter-piracy, counter-illicit trafficking, combating illegal arms, and illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, and search and rescue to increase maritime domain awareness and control in the Gulf of Guinea.
At the national level, the exercise allowed, among others, to test the rapid reaction capacities of the system
in the face of a given maritime threat and strengthen multi-sector cooperation in the maritime domain.
And now we talk something else. Over 38 enterprises in Cameroon risk penalties such as automatic taxation for the non-submission of their financial statements and tax returns for the 2023 fiscal year. The enterprise, which failed to respect a March 26 extended deadline, have received a strong public ultimatum from the Minister of Finance in Cameroon. They are composed of major public and private enterprises. Femi Armstrong Sender once more tells us more.
The information went public following a public call out from Cameroon's Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motaze on the 38 enterprises to submit their financial statements and their tax returns (DSF) for the fiscal year 2023. The deadline expired on March 28, 2024. He urged these companies to file their declarations immediately to avoid penalties such as automatic taxation. The list of enterprises published by the minister includes public enterprises such as Aeroportu Cameroon, ADC, Chantier Naval, and several private enterprises. ADC, a public enterprise managing the country's airport, conducted operations in 2023 and is slated for listing on the Central African Stock Exchange (BVMAC). The inclusion of the Chantier Naval Industriel du Cameroon in crisis for several years is less surprising. Companies on this list faced increased fiscal charges. Article 99 of the General Tax Code in Cameroon stipulates a non-negotiable fine for late DSF submission ranging from 250,000 francs CFA to 5 million francs CFA, depending on the company's size. Article 103 specifies that non-submission of a declaration leading to automatic taxation results in losing value-added tax deduction rights and previous period's value-added tax credits. For income tax, it means losing the rights to carry forward prior deficit and tax credits. The DSF is a key accounting document that summarizes a company's activities over the fiscal year. It helps the tax authorities ensure compliance with tax regulations and assists the National Institute of Statistics in producing economic data. According to the General Tax Code, the DSF must be submitted by March 15th each year, though this deadline can be extended by the Finance Minister.
And last-minute preparations are ongoing at the University of Garwa ahead of the upcoming University Games. Both state and some private universities will be taking part in the competition. The University Games will be officially start or kick off on Saturday, where the Minister of Higher Education expected to launch the Games. Marjikan Gabriel reports.
The Garwa University campus is already vibrating to the rhythms of the University Games, with almost all delegations in town. An athlete from a private higher institution of learning based in Douala say it was a tiring journey. It was a very long journey, but till now, all is well. They told us that the climate won't be a problem to us, so we hope it's going to be like that till the end of this competition. At the time Equinoxe television arrived at the campus of the University of Garwa, the venue to host the opening ceremony was having its finishing touches, as well as the hall where table tennis, wrestling and judo will be done. It was also time for last-minute rehearsals for the protocol team. The University Games Village was already completed. The complaint of most delegation is linked to the hot climate in Garwa. We have prepared hard for the competition. It's true that it's very hot here. It's hot also in Douala, but extremely hot in Garwa. But we are hoping that with the physical preparation we had and sacrifices we made, we are going to put up a great performance. It will be the first games to be organized in Garwa since the university was created. The games will be officially opened this Saturday by the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famen Dongo.
And now in news out of Cameroon, Alamanye Halina is the new Prime Minister of Chad. He was appointed this Thursday by Chad's leader Mohamed Idriss Deby. Meanwhile, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye will for his first time after his election visit France on June 20, 2024. The meeting President Emmanuel Macron to review their relations. And in France, employees of France's public broadcasting sector, including RFI, are staging a peaceful protest in Paris. The media personnel decry a proposed merger of state-financed media companies. Ese Lucilengu has greater details.
Chad's leader Mohamed Idriss Deby Itno appoints Alamanye Halina as the new Prime Minister of Chad. The appointment was made public this Thursday in a press release from the presidency. Halina replaces opposition leader Sousse Masra, who resigned as Prime Minister on Wednesday, 22nd of May. The new Prime Minister Halina is a diplomat and former Director General of State Protocol. According to the release, he is obliged to form a new government with Mohamed Idriss Deby, who was recently sworn in as president of the Central African nation for a 5-year term. After his visit to countries in West Africa, Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye will be meeting French President Emmanuel Macron on June 20, 2024 in Paris. In France, he will participate in a summit aimed at accelerating the production of vaccines in Africa. In the course of the meeting, the two presidents will discuss the in-depth relationship between Senegal and France. The meeting will be Bassirou Diomaye Faye's first international tour since he was elected president of Senegal. And away from Africa, France 24 broadcasts and digital platforms for the past days are disrupted by a strike called by the unions of France medias. The media practitioners are protesting against a proposed merger of state-financed media companies championed by the Minister of Culture, Rachida Dati. The new media group will bring together France Television, Radio France, National Audiovisual Institute, and France Media Monde.
And that's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Tonight on Talking Point, I'll be receiving a human rights defender, G. Lucas, and we'll be discussing about upcoming presidential, legislative, and municipal elections. Good evening. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. I'd like to know from you, G. Lucas, have you registered your name on the electoral list for the upcoming presidential elections?
Yes, the upcoming presidential elections, which is 2025, 2025 we have 3 principal elections. We have the legislative and the municipal elections, and we have the presidential elections. So as an individual, yes, of course, I've registered my name. And to reiterate that as a human rights defender and as a member of the Cameroon Coalition of Civil Society, it is quite obvious that one of the objectives of this is to encourage persons to register for elections, because we believe in democracy. As such, the only thing I would tell you is I have registered, and if you have not registered, then you should consider registering, because we believe in democracy, and the pillars of democracy are what we'll be experiencing next year, where you have to enjoy this right for you to. Why not also have your name written on the electoral register, whereby you will be deciding who should be your MP, who should be your parliamentarian, who should be your mayor. It will be your right to determine who is going to be your president, because we have 3 main elections next year. I put the main elections because these are the elections which Cameroonians are privileged to vote. That is, these elections are universal suffrage, unlike the other elections which are indirect suffrage.
G. Lucas, we are 100 days to the end of registration. What is your overall appraisal of the role played by political parties in mobilizing the local population ahead of the upcoming presidential elections?
By this time, I believe that we must have seen already the efforts and the level of commitment opposition political parties on the ground do have, and the CPTM party also, which is the incumbent. You shouldn't forget that they have had several meet the people discussions where they will meet their potential voters, they will meet their militants, and they will meet everybody who is interested in why not taking part. With regards to political parties in Cameroon, recently you must have noticed that the communique by the Minister of Territorial Administration cautioning political parties that for people to register, it isn't compulsory, it is their right. I think it is for the very first time we are having this. Back in the days when we had the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization that managed elections, there was a lot that was not said. But you will bear with me that this year it is something different. And it is because of the massive participation by political parties educating the people, especially the opposition educating the people, which prompted the Minister of Territorial Administration to make the statement he made, if you look at it, immaculate. So when you look at the entire situation, you will bear with me that political parties are doing great. And as a result of what they are doing, you can see the people. If you look at the nooks and crannies, almost everybody, if you go to the northwest and southwest regions, if you look at the level with which the people are desiring to register for elections, I am on the ground. I walk in the field, both in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. I see the level with which young people want to register. Most of these persons will call me, and it is as a result of the much call by the civil society and the political parties, which of course you shouldn't forget that the action by the Minister of Territorial Administration is a clear evidence that political parties are indeed educating the people to register for election, which of course it is another phase, which I've always said. The first phase is for you to register. The next phase is for you to ensure that you get politically educated, which of course political parties are doing their best to see that Cameroonians take active part come 2025.
Now, we are quite aware that registration on electoral list is not done during an electoral year, but then we still have some Cameroonians who are still doubting on whether to register or not. How much is that a cause for concern?
Of course, if you look at the support political parties are giving the people to register for election, and for the electoral code, which many do not know for now, the electoral list, the register is going to close by August 31st this year. And we are at the eve of elections. And we are at the eve of very vital elections. Elections which only these elections will determine the next phase of the Republic of Cameroon. And there is still this mind by some people asking questions if they should. And I've been telling the people that if there is anything you should do right now, is for you to ensure that Elecam office does not rest until you must have registered. Because by August 31st, the list is going to close. They will close the register. And when they close the register, the next thing that we will have is, as per the electoral law, on the 31st, on or before the 31st of December, we are expecting that Elecam should publish the list of the potential or the persons who have registered for elections. And 2 weeks before each election, they should have had the names posted on the different polling stations for the people to see. Those who have issues with their names, those who do not know their polling stations, they can trace their polling stations and things like that. So at this eve, we still should not be having the level of doubt that some of us do have, because there is only one thing we should have in mind. In the democracy that we are currently getting into, it is not going to be game as usual, in the sense that previously I never saw young persons would walk up to me asking me where they want to register for elections. So if you are still behind and you are still asking if you should register or you shouldn't register for elections, I think it is one of the grievous mistakes you would have made in your life, which at this particular point in time we are saying that 2025 is going to be a year of change. Is going to be a year where people will see things that they never saw with regards to the Cameroon political landscape.
J. Lucas, human rights defender based in the Southwest region. Good evening, and thank you so much for being part of Talking Point tonight. And that's what will put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs. Up next is Equinoxe Soir with Serge Alain Otto. Have a wonderful evening.